Welcome. This is Uncommon Sense, a podcast presented by the Heshe CPA Knowledge Center. The center is an initiative of the CPA Education Foundation, the charitable arm of the chartered professional accountant profession in Alberta. Our weekly episodes feature conversations with Alberta CPAs sharing their insights on a wide range of timely topics. Alberta CPAs work in every part of the economy and volunteer their time and expertise in virtually every community in Alberta. With each episode, we bring you voices and perspectives that reflect the diverse knowledge and contributions that CPAs bring to our province. Hello, I'm Jessica DeGroot with the CPA Education Foundation. Welcome to Season 2 of Uncommon Sense. And if you were a regular listener last season, welcome back. Our team at the Foundation are putting together another season of episodes that we hope will be interesting, engaging, and informative for all of our listeners. Our first guest of the new season is a CPA who definitely checks all three of those boxes. She is Cheryl Gibson, FCPA, FCA. In addition to being a CPA and a fellow of the Chartered Professional Accountants of Alberta, Cheryl is also a lawyer who has earned the law profession's most distinguished honor, the King's Counsel designation. Even if you're not a CPA or involved in the legal profession, you might recognize Cheryl's name. That's probably because she is one of Canada's most distinguished competitive swimmers. During her swimming career, Cheryl won numerous medals in international competition in the 1970s and 1980s. Her medal count includes a silver medal at the 1976 Olympics in Montreal, a medal at the 1978 World Aquatic Championships in Berlin, 3 medals at the 1978 Commonwealth Games in Edmonton, and 3 medals at the 1982 Commonwealth Games in Brisbane, Australia. As well, she's earned several medals at various Pan Am Games and has held over 30 Canadian swimming titles. Cheryl is one of Canada's all-time most successful athletes, and her record of achievement has earned her spots in the Alberta Sports Hall of Fame, the Edmonton Sports Hall of Fame, and Canadian Olympic Hall of Fame, and the British Columbia Sports Hall of Fame, among other honors. She was also named Canada's Female Athlete of the Year in 1977. Cheryl has joined me to talk about all of that and about how a highly successful athlete became a highly successful chartered professional accountant and lawyer. Hi, Cheryl. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So we're starting off each episode of our new season with the same question for each guest. And that question is, do you have a piece of uncommon sense to share with our audience? Maybe a valuable piece of advice, life hack, or a little life lesson that has meant something to you?
Well, the one thing I always told my kids was to listen to whatever somebody has to say, and then you can analyze and decide whether you think it's worth keeping or tossing. But you have to keep your mind open and listen first.
That's great. I think that's a skill that some folks haven't quite developed yet. Listening is harder than one might think. So thank you so much for that. Before we dig into your career as a swimmer and CPA/lawyer, I would like to ask you about something that you've done quite recently. I understand that you attended the 2025 World Aquatics Championships in Singapore earlier this summer as a member of the World Aquatics Bureau Board of Directors. What was your role at that event, and what was that experience like?
So this has just been a fabulous continuation of my athletic involvement. To go from being an athlete, then I was with Swimming Canada. I was president of Swimming Canada, and then I ended up on the World Aquatics Bureau, which is the board of directors. And so my role there was, as part of the board of directors, I'm on one of the jury of appeals. And I have a special role with artistic swimming, which is quite entertaining because I have no artistic swimming ability, whatever. But I was put in that role because it needed some assistance in implementing some new rules and having different guidelines and getting marketing going and some of these things. So I've really enjoyed that. So I have a special role with artistic swimming, which is the old synchronized swimming, but it's not your grandmother's synchronized swimming anymore. It's unbelievable what these athletes do.
Wow, that's amazing. So we can't talk about the Singapore Championships without discussing someone that all Canadians are tremendously proud of, and that is the incredible Summer McIntosh. So at 18 years old, Summer won 5 medals at the championships, including 4 gold medals, and that's one of the most remarkable performances in the history of the Worlds. She had previously won 3 Olympic gold medals and has been smashing Canadian and international records continuously since she was only 16. So what was it like for you to be there in person to witness Summer's achievements in Singapore?
So I've had the opportunity to watch Summer over a number of years and to watch her progression, and she is a phenomenal athlete. She is super focused, a lovely person, a bright young lady. She has so much going for her, but her drive is just uncomparable. She wanted to win 5 golds at this World Championship, and she just fell short of that, going up against Katie Ledecky, one of the best in the world in the 800 freestyle. And I kind of laughed. Her comment afterwards was she hates to lose more than she likes to win. And, that's what she's all about. I watched her at the Olympics and all these events, and she, even when it looks like she might not make it, she just digs deep and finds a way to do it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, such remarkable achievements. And you have to think that so much of that not only comes from athletic skill, but mindset as well. And like you said, that drive.
She has incredible drive, and she is prepared to do whatever it takes to keep getting better. She doesn't stay in the same, she was in the Toronto area, went down to Florida to swim there for a while with a particular coach, and then decided she needed something else and actually went and trained at high altitude in the Alps in France. And then came back from that and broke a few world records. It's just phenomenal, like to be breaking multiple world records in an event, which she did at Canadian Nationals, is such a joy.
Mm-hmm. Very exciting to watch, for sure. What do you think it is about Summer's skill and her approach to swimming that makes her so successful? Is it anything other than her drive?
I think she appreciates everything that's going on. I know when she gets out of practice, she thanks her coach for the workout, which most of us would really not do sometimes, because she knows she's trying to move forward, and she has a whole team of people who are trying to help her do that. And she's just incredibly focused on that and doing whatever it takes to improve all the time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people get kind of comfortable with where they're at, and she's continually looking for ways to improve.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I want to talk a little bit now about you and your career. To begin, it's pretty rare for someone to be both a CPA and a lawyer. It's hard enough to earn one of those designations. So how did you come to be part of both professions?
So I was at university, and I was getting a little bit tired of being in school, and I had taken accounting because I thought it would be a useful career to pursue, and skills that I'd like to have. And so I went into then it was the Chartered Accountant program. And my goal always was to go back to law school, but I wanted to have some business experience and life experience. Going through the program at the time really provided that to me and gave me a really good grounding for the type of law that I ended up doing, which I hadn't actually planned on doing, but I did become a tax lawyer.
Mm-hmm. So you went through university and did the CA program and then went back to law school.
Yes, correct. So as soon as I, passed the final exams, I had applied to law school and went to the University of Toronto, and the rest is history.
Mm-hmm. And by then you must have been getting really sick of school.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of fun after working for a while, and, we put in lots of hours in those days. It was kind of fun to go back to school for a while. So, yeah, it was a good experience, a really good experience. I went to the U of T, met some wonderful people that are my friends to this day, and had the good sense to come back to Alberta.
Mm-hmm. So as a CPA and a lawyer, you bring a unique set of skills and qualifications to your work. What types of fields have you been able to work in thanks to your dual designations?
Well, primarily I've been doing tax work, income tax and GST, and some corporate work as well. And so having that accounting background has been an amazing advantage, particularly with my tax litigation work, because so much of these tax issues that arise are related to the accounting. And I remember once there was one, and it was a joint venture, and someone said, "Oh, this is so complicated." And I said, "It will not be beyond me. It's okay." And we were able to resolve that. So having that accounting background has been so important. And it's allowed me to work with accountants for most of my career. I work with accountants more than I work with lawyers, and they're kind of my people.
Mm-hmm. So do you consider yourself to be a CPA who uses her lawyer skills or a lawyer who uses her CPA skills?
I'm a lawyer who uses her CPA skills.
Okay. I don't think we'll have too many opportunities to have an Olympic swimmer on our podcast. So I do have to ask you about your swimming career and your achievements. When was it that you first realized that becoming a competitive swimmer on the international stage was a real possibility for you?
So I was a bit of a late bloomer, and I like to say I languished in mediocrity for a number of years. At about 14 years old, which I know sounds young to people, but as a swimmer, that's not particularly young, things started to turn around, and I can't tell you why. Mm-hmm. But, when I was 15 and it was the year before the Olympics, a coach who was not my coach said, you could make the Olympic team. And I kind of looked and I thought, oh, really? And so... all of a sudden that became a focus. I was going to national championships, and I had gone to a world championship and a Pan American championship before I went to the Olympics in '76. Now, you have to remember that I was 16 years old when I was at the Olympics, so things were happening fast, and the improvement was happening very quickly.
Yeah, that's incredible. When did you start swimming?
I was 9 years old. I did the usual Red Cross swimming lessons and kind of got to as far as I could go then. They didn't have too many categories. And then somebody at my father's work had a daughter who was in competitive swimming and said, "Hey, you should bring the kids." And so one of my brothers and I started going. And since we had nothing else to do at 6 a.m. in the morning, there we were. So I've spent a lot of years getting up very early, and now I try not to.
Yeah, that is a thing among athletes, is the early mornings and the training and long days for sure.
Yeah.
And so when that coach said to you that, he's not your coach, but, maybe you have a chance at going to the Olympics, what did you think at that time? Like, did you think, oh, yeah, whatever? Or were you like, oh... Really?
I think I was a little shocked, quite honestly. I know a lot of people thought about going to the Olympics from when they were a little kid. I was just going to the pool every day for something to do, honestly. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden it became an opportunity to travel around the world. I grew up in Edmonton, and Edmonton was a pretty sleepy town back in the 60s and 70s. And so this was just a great way to get out and see the world.
Mm-hmm. And you had the opportunity to participate in both the Montreal Olympics in 1976 and the Edmonton Commonwealth Games in '78. So what did it mean to you to compete for Canada in your home country and even your home city, and to win medals at both of those events?
Yeah, so, first of all, the Olympics, it's like its own world. When you go to the Olympic Games, you could be in any city, but it's its own little circus tent. And it's really interesting because, I hadn't been to much of this multi-game sort of thing, and you're seeing all these athletes from all around the world because you're staying in a village together, and they're from everywhere. You got the 4'8" gymnasts, and you got the 7'10" basketball players, and it's just... It takes a lot to focus on what you're doing when all these things are going on around you. So, that's kind of interesting. Having the home crowd is fantastic. When I went to the Commonwealth Games in Edmonton, so that's great. I mean, your family's here and all those things. It adds a little bit of pressure. But the hardest part for me in that Games was our real competition was coming a couple of weeks later for the World Championship. And so you can't be right on for both of them. And, I wasn't, we were focusing on the World Championships and not Commonwealth Games. So you're trying to win and trying to do your best when you're physically not quite at the ability to do that. But, I was able to win a gold medal and everybody's happy. And we moved on from there. And then I had a fantastic World Championship after that. So it all worked out as to plan. But, yeah, people don't get many opportunities to go to big games in their hometown.
Yeah, absolutely. And this all happened when you were about 16 years old.
Yeah, 16 to 18, yeah.
Okay, so how did you find that was, how was managing that with your studies and everything also at that time?
So it's kind of funny. I was a student first and an athlete second. I always took that approach through my whole career. So the Olympic year, I really didn't go to school a whole lot. And so I ended up doing grade 11 and grade 12 pretty much in 1 year when I came back to Edmonton. I was swimming out of Vancouver for the Olympic year. And then when I went to university, school came first and swimming came second for me. Mm-hmm. Now they're professionals, and so, it's a career for them. And for me, it was an activity.
Yeah. And what was it like to stand on the medal podium at an event like the Olympics or the Commonwealth Games? What goes through your mind at a time like that?
Well, I can tell you for the Olympic Games, so it's unreal that it's always kind of this hope in the background and you're aiming for this. But when it actually happens and you're on the podium, it's like, oh my goodness, this has happened. Mm-hmm. I remember going back to the village afterwards and thinking, I have an Olympic medal. My goodness, really, So I think I was kind of shocked, actually, because when you get there, when you're training, everybody says, oh, we're going to try and do this and you can do that. And you get there and you realize everybody else wants to win. It's not like you just show up and if you just try a little hard. No, everybody's doing this. And you're pushing yourself to the very max. My perfect race, I only had one perfect race in my career, and that was at the Olympic Games, so it's a really great place to have your perfect race, where there's nothing I would do differently. I gave it everything I had, nothing left on the table, and that was good for a silver medal. The gold medal was really out of reach because this was the time of the East Germans and the steroids and all of that, and the East Germans were winning everything. When you have a little help, that's what happens. I can tell you, I'm the happiest silver medalist ever. I was so thrilled to win. I was hoping maybe I could get in there for a bronze, and then I get a silver. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, and rightfully so. You should be very happy and proud of that. I guess so. Everybody's you're competing at the Olympics. The hope is to win, but did you kind of feel like probably wasn't going to happen?
I don't think I thought of it that way. It's really, you're focusing on doing what you've prepared to do. Mm-hmm. And so whatever happens after that. I mean, if you're in a race and you can see the people, it's not always that easy to see. I mean, we didn't have, the goggles and all these things they have today. So it was a little more difficult to track everybody. Fortunately, the woman who came third is also from Edmonton, Becky Smith. And we had swum with each other a lot. So, you're able to judge kind of where you are from each other. And so it was really great. I mean, we came second and third. That's a fantastic result for Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you were slated to be part of Team Canada at the 1980 Summer Olympics in Moscow. However, many nations, including Canada, ended up boycotting those Olympics because of the Soviet Union's invasion of Afghanistan in 1979. So how did it feel to lose that opportunity to return to the Olympics?
Well, it's pretty disappointing. I'd finished 2 years of university and I took a year off to swim out of Toronto and get ready for the Olympics. And when you find out it's not going to happen, it's just really odd. I had been at a competition in Moscow the year before, and we went and saw the Olympic pool, and it's like it just didn't happen for us. Now, I had an opportunity. I was a medalist already, and I always thought, it was really unfortunate for my friends who it was going to be their only chance to go to the Olympics, and they didn't get that opportunity. And maybe I just focused a little bit on, don't feel bad for yourself because it's worse for other people. But it's very disappointing. And, it just taught me how to adapt. You just have to accept things that are out of your control and adapt and move on. And so, I was 20 years old. That's a lesson I learned pretty early in life.
Yeah, and that's a good way to look at it. It's very much out of your control. So you won dozens of medals as a swimmer. Is there one medal that stands out for you as being especially meaningful, or maybe your most meaningful experience as a swimmer didn't involve a medal at all?
Well, I'm going to say for sure my Olympic medal because it was my perfect race. And, I had my coach, I would say about 8 months in advance, say, I think it's going to take 4 minutes and 50 seconds to win the gold. At that time, my best time was 8 seconds slower than that. And I'm looking at him like, I think you're crazy, but okay. When in between heats and finals, I had qualified fourth into the final. And we do a lot of mental rehearsal. And the first and only time I ever timed my mental rehearsal, I got a stopwatch and timed it 4 minutes and 50 seconds, exactly what he said was going to win. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And then in the race, I went 2 seconds faster than that.
Oh, wow.
And so, as I said, it was just all the mental rehearsal just went exact. I mean, you get darn tired by the time you're into that last 150 meters. And you really, really have to focus on maintaining stroke and, kind of keep going when you'd rather not, right? And so that's my perfect race, and it had a great result. And winning an Olympic medal, I didn't realize it would change my life in that, people still care that I won an Olympic medal, which I just never anticipated.
You didn't think you'd be talking about it this many years later?
No.
So I'm curious, what does a perfect race mean? Like, what do you mean when you say that for you?
Well, lots of times you swim a race and you think, well, I could have done something better. I should have done the start better. I should have, there's parts of the race that I should have done better. I could have done this. I need to do this next time. But that particular race, I did it all exactly as planned. I did the best I could. There was nothing left. That's what makes it a perfect race.
Yeah. And when you think about cutting 8 seconds off of your best time, I know a lot of people might think, 8 seconds, like that's should be easy to cut off, but how hard is that actually in a swimming race?
Well, yeah, it's a lot. Between when I'd qualified for the Olympics, so that was where I was, at 4:58. I did the heats. I went 4:55, so that's 3 seconds there, and it was pretty easy because you don't want to do too much in the heats. And then to go another 7 seconds faster again, it's because you're just giving it absolutely everything you have. Now, do I think that's kind of normal? We didn't have as many international events back then as we do now. So big drops like that in a race that's 400 meters could happen more likely than today, where they have so many competitions that there's a much smoother progression than we might have had back then.
Okay. So I can only imagine what the pressure must be like to compete against the very best swimmers in the world and in front of the entire world as well. So what did you learn about yourself when you were a competitive swimmer?
Well, one of the things I learned as I went on was there's no point in spending a lot of time fussing or worrying and getting nervous in advance of the race. Until you stand on the block, nothing really matters. And when you focus all your attention to just that period of time, I think that's way more effective than fussing. Some people worry about these things all day, and and I just tried not to do that. And that was really good because then you're putting all your energy just to the race and not to things that will not make you faster.
Yeah, I feel like that's easier said than done.
It is. Yeah.
Did you have anything in particular that you did to stay so cool and calm?
No, I think it was just a mental realization. I just figured out on my own. Like, why am I fussing about this or that? And I wasn't a particularly nervous person before my races. I was pretty calm and stuff. I can tell you at the Olympics, they used to walk us down the length of the pool to this really severe music, and it was just frightening. As a 16-year-old, I was, oh my goodness. Now they make it kind of more of a fun thing, and they have them come in from the end of the pool so you don't have to walk all the way down the pool and stuff. But it's always hard because you're trying to do your very best, and you're not in control of everything because there's 7 other swimmers doing what they can do. So you have to be prepared to adapt again.
Mm-hmm. And whether as a swimmer or a working professional, I'm sure that you've encountered occasional moments of self-doubt or lack of confidence, as most people do. Do you have any insights on how someone can overcome these moments?
So, yes, of course. We all have moments of self-doubt, and sometimes I say, just do what you can do here. Like, stop fussing about it and just do what you can do and stop worrying. I think the best thing to have confidence is to have done the work in the background. So when I went to the Olympics, I knew I'd done all the work. We'd done the training. We used to go across the street and go up a 32-story building staircase twice, 2 steps at a time. We'd done a lot of training. And so when you have the confidence that you've done all the work, or when you've done all the work, it gives you the confidence.
Right.
And I think that's true of anything. If I go into court in a trial, I have to know all the cases. I have to know all the facts. Things are going to come up that I wasn't expecting. It always does. But you're prepared because you've done all the work. If you haven't done the work, it's scary.
Mm-hmm. So preparation, I guess, would be key.
Preparation is key.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And are there any lessons or learnings from your career as a competitive swimmer that you've been able to apply to your career as a CPA and a lawyer?
So I think the biggest lesson I've learned is to be prepared. Mm-hmm. The other thing is nobody does it alone. So work with your team. Everybody needs a team, so find a team. And we all need support, and we can support others. So I've always made it, a part of my practice to try and help other people in the field, my colleagues, just as I hope they would support me. And my colleagues have always supported me.
Mm-hmm. Do you think as important it is to have a team behind you and supporting you or beside you, whether it be your swimming team or your work team, it's just as important to have that competition with yourself and be able to push yourself further. Like when you're swimming, for example, as much as you're competing against other people, you're competing against yourself as well, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the things I learned is you just can't give up. And so lots of times in a swimming race, you might be behind, but you just keep going till you get to the end. And sometimes that surprises people. And it works out very well for you. So I think the same would be true of a career. And I think a lot of it's just about putting one foot in front of the other. Don't think too far down the road. If you're, I do a lot of cycling now, and sometimes we're going up some hills that I'm thinking, I'm not sure I'm going to make this. And then I just look down and I just keep doing the next cycle. And ultimately you just magically get there. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes that's what you have to do at work too. You just show up every day, do what you can every day, and somehow, you get things done and you do a good job. And, I think it's important to be, you don't have to be perfect. You just do what you can and you do the best you can do. Because, I often say to my kids, perfection's overrated. Now, as a tax lawyer, I've focused pretty detailed on, trying to be perfect on some things. And there's some things you need to be perfect on, and there's some things you don't, and you just have to distinguish the two. Mm-hmm. And just keep pushing.
Yeah, I love that advice. One thing at a time. That's great. So I have one last question for you. Do you still pop into the swimming pool these days or swim a few laps every now and then?
So I pop into pools to do aquasize because I can talk to my friends while I'm doing that. I don't do laps very often, and the lap swimming I did do ended during COVID when they closed the pool. Every once in a while, I'll do a few laps, but I've kind of focused on a cycling group I'm with now. I play badminton in the winter and cross-country skiing. And disc golf. I don't know if anybody knows about disc golf, but, it's kind of like golfing except with Frisbees, effectively. And so I just enjoy doing some other activities because I don't really want to train for anything anymore, but I still like to stay in decent shape.
Yeah. Well, that's great that you still keep active and have found some other things that you really enjoy doing. Cheryl, it has been such a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and insights with us. You've achieved so much over your career as an athlete and as a CPA and a lawyer, and it has been fascinating to hear about your life in both of those worlds. So thank you again for your time today.
Oh, thank you so much.
The Uncommon Sense podcast is presented by the CPA Education Foundation and funded by the Heshe CPA Knowledge Center. The Knowledge Center was created through a generous donation by the late Brian Heshe. Brian was a distinguished Albertan, business leader, CPA, educator, and community builder. His generosity and commitment to education underpinned his good works across Alberta throughout his lifetime. The opinions expressed on Uncommon Sense do not necessarily reflect the views of the CPA Education Foundation. We would like to acknowledge that CPA Education Foundation offices are situated on the traditional Treaty 6 and Treaty 7 territories and Métis Nation homeland. The Foundation acknowledges that we reside on traditional and ancestral territories of many Indigenous, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Their histories and culture influence our community to this day. The Foundation is committed to helping build a province where Indigenous people and their voices and experiences are heard, valued, respected, and celebrated. Technical and recording services for this podcast provided by Wolf Willow Studios in Edmonton. If you enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about us. If you have any comments about the podcast, write to us at cpaef@cpaalberta.ca. To learn more about the CPA Education Foundation and the Heshe CPA Knowledge Center, visit cpaalberta.ca/foundation.